Hello, welcome back. So just a quick recap. We've factored ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We've done zero product property. Today we're going to do vertex. Thursday we're going to do discriminant. Next week is nothing. You guys still have your spring break off. And when we come back, we're going to go to the quadratic equation. So today, vertex. Let's do some definitions. What exactly is a parabola? A parabola is the U-shaped curves that we get from a quadratic equation, such as x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0, y equals 5x squared plus 1x minus 2. Anytime you get that, you're going to get a curve, such as those. Next, we have, next thing we have is the vertex. The vertex is the point, the highest most point or the lowest most point. So the curve on the left has the lowest most point right over there and the highest most point over there. That is known as your vertex. That is your center point. So everything on the left is basically a mirror image to everything on the right. So if we were to draw a line of symmetry, it would literally go right through the vertex. So the vertex has a formula inside that black box known as negative b over 2a. That is literally the entire lesson today. So let's do a question. Apologies. So we have y equals x squared plus 4x plus 5 equals y. And the first thing we want to do is our formula. So we have negative b over 2a. Before we jump into that, remember on the top right, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we know a is 1, b is 4, and c is 5. So when we plug it in, we get negative b, which is 4, divided by 2 times a, which is 1. So negative 4 over 2 is equal to negative 2. So that is your vertex. That is your x value. If you want to find the y value, you can literally plug that into the equation. So take the equation, and we have negative 2 squared plus 4 times negative 2 plus 5 equals y. And then we do the math. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And then plus 5. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 5 is 1. So we have a y value. So the vertex will be at negative 2, 1. So we can go negative 2, 1 on our graph, and that would be your vertex. We also know it's positive x squared, so it has to look something like that. I'm not really going to get too much into it, but that's ultimately what it's referring to. So let's just keep it simple. Let's just do the problems that would be similar to those on the assignment, because the graph is a little bit extra. That's not going to be on the assignment, so don't worry too much about that. All right, so the next problem. We know here a is negative 1, b is negative 6, and c is negative 5. So when we do the vertex formula, negative b over 2a, we get minus b, and b is negative 6, so it's minus a negative, and then 2 times a, which is negative 1. So minus a negative becomes a positive 6, and then 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, which eventually becomes negative 3. That is your answer. That is your vertex. Moving on. X squared minus 64 equals 0. So we know a is 1, b is unknown at this point, and c is negative 64. So we can rewrite this as 0 times x. That's why there is no x term. And let's clean it up. Why is that not working? Apologies. Wish I would have told you a joke in the meantime. So here we know negative b over 2a. And here we have negative 0, because b is 0, over 2 times 1. So we have 0 over 2. So if you have a birthday cake cut into 2 slices and you have 0 cake, how much cake did you have? 0. So your vertex is 0. The next problem, we have, we know a is 1, we know b is 5, and we know c is negative 2. So the formula is negative b over 2a, so negative 5 over 2 times 1 is negative 5 over 2. The fraction does not reduce, simply leave it as a fraction. Done. Now, just a quick review. Here are some new kind of problems. Doesn't hurt to just pay attention for a little bit longer, but the lesson is complete. So for the first problem, we have 4x squared plus 6x equals 0. Notice they both have the number 2 in common, and they both have an x in common. So I'm going to remove a 2 and an x. So 2 times what is 4? 2 times 2 is 4. And then x times x will give us the x squared. Next, we remove the 2 and we removed an x. All that we need is a 3, because 2x times 3 is 6x. Now we've factored it. We have a times b, where a is 2x and b is 2x plus 3. The one on the left is a little bit easier. The one on the right requires a little bit of work. So we can subtract 3 on both sides and then divide by 2. Those are your answers. X equals 0, x equals negative 3/2. On the right side, notice 3 goes into everything. So if we remove a 3, 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative x is negative 3x. And 3 times negative 12 is negative 36. Well, we can actually divide both sides by 3. And now we have a much, much easier problem to solve. So as we set up our x, remember, a times c goes on top, 1 times negative 12, and b goes on the bottom, which is negative 1. So let's start off with 1. 1 times 12 is 12, but 12 minus 1 is 11. That doesn't work. 2 times 6 is 12, but 6 minus 2 is 4. That doesn't work. 3 times 4 is 12, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So it looks like 3 and 4 are our numbers. And since it's negative 1 on the bottom, the larger number has to be negative, and it works out. So we now have x plus 3 times x minus 4 equals 0. And then we set them both to equal 0. So you get x equals negative 3. And you get x equals 4. The last problem I'll do is this one. So there are no common factors, so I'm going to go straight into the x method. A times c goes on top, and b goes on the bottom. A times c is 3 times negative 6, and b was 17. So start off with 1. 1 times 18 is 18, and 18 minus 1 is 17. So it seems like 1 and 18 are a good fit, And since it's negative on top, one of them has to be negative, 18 minus 1. But remember, a is 3. So we're going to need to use that 3 when we set up our problem. So we have x minus 1 over 3, and we have x plus 18 over 3. And you must reduce. So since the 1 over 3 does not reduce, the 3 goes to the front, and we get 3x minus 1. In this problem, or the one next to it, 18 over 3 is 6. There you go. So we now set these to equal 0. We can add 1, divide by 3, and your answer is x equals 1 over 3. On the other side, will be done a lot faster. We subtract 6 on both sides. X equals negative 6. All right, so the point of this is to mostly practice your negative b over 2a and then do the assignment. We'll do the discriminant on Thursday, and then after all is said and done, when we come back from spring break, the quadratic formula will not be as intense. And just to show you, the quadratic formula is very gorgeous. That's the goal. Happy Tuesday, everyone, and I hope all is well. Talk to you guys soon.